Wine of Frogs by Marcolongo. This story was originally published in the anthology, The Moving Finger Writes. "The sex was great, Angie," he said. He liked to call her that when they were alone. "Why are you getting dressed?" "It's still early," she asked as she pulled the sheet back over herself. "I want to schedule a meeting of all staff and members of the organization to announce a major breakthrough in the project." "A breakthrough? My God, Max. When did that happen?" "Last month, actually. But I needed several weeks to finish my preparations for the presentation itself. Will you arrange it for me? For this evening?" he asked, as he donned his coat and headed for the door. "Of course, but—" Too late. He was out the door and headed for his car. In the conference room of the institution, the staff members and associated personnel were seated around the long conference table, anxiously awaiting the important news Max had guaranteed was forthcoming. Wine had already been poured into appropriate toasting glasses when Max stood to deliver his much-anticipated speech. "I want to thank all of you for attending this meeting and for your efforts on the research we have been so devilishly engrossed in pursuing. Less than a month ago, and totally by happenstance, I stumbled upon the answer to our project, our extensive hunt for the answers of longevity and the extension of the human span of life." A tumultuous racket of astonished voices drowned him out. "Let us commemorate this momentous occasion with a toast," he said, and raised his glass high in a gesture of salutation. Now speechless, everyone stood and raised their glasses in complete expectation of the revelation of his discovery to follow, and the enlightenment it would bring. "I toast the successful triumph of our formidable task, and the impact my discovery will have upon the welfare of mankind." "Hear, hear," came the accolade as they raised their glasses and drank. He remained silent as they reseated themselves. Standing there, mouth agape, Angela eventually managed to compose herself enough to ask, "Max, how long are you going to make us wait for the details of this bombshell?" "I shall reveal everything in due course, my dear Ms. Falk." He purposely emphasized her correct name. Angela was absolutely stunned. How could he have known that she was also the elusive Ms. Falk, the industrial spy in their midst? How long has he known? She was caught in a maze of surprise, guilt, and shame, all rolled together in an emotional fireball whizzing its way through. He knew she was shocked. He had intended to shock her, although his next revelations were to be far more seismic in nature. "I apologize for the delay, but it took longer than expected to conclude the necessary processes in order to make this presentation today. As you know, I have been diligently working on a segment of our research regarding the wood frog, specifically the Rana sylvatica species common to the Arctic tundra. It is common knowledge that this species actually freezes solid during the winter months of the Arctic hibernal season and is able to survive by protecting its cells with its own antifreeze, a form of cryoprotectant. 67% of the frog's body freezes hard, but not inside the cells. As the frog slowly freezes, over several hours, he pumps large amounts of glucose antifreeze into his cells. Gradually, he stops breathing, his heart stops, his brain activity ceases, but his cells do not freeze. He remains in this condition for several months, and come spring, the frog fully recovers. It is precisely because of this ability that we torture the poor thing with multiple tests and experiments for the betterment of mankind, of course." His sarcastic tone evoked a look of puzzlement across their collective faces. "In the course of reflecting upon the trials and tribulations we have subjected him to," he continued, "I began to ponder what we have been subjecting ourselves to over the past year. Is this what we will bequeath to our fellow man? All this torturous exploration, morphing, and mind-bending experimentation, I ask myself. Of course it is. And if we ever do find the answer, heaven help us all, given what must surely follow, knowing how the government would distribute the knowledge. Faces around the table began to stiffen. This is not what was expected. Not at all. The world must never know the results of the human longevity research and experiments that we have conducted at this installation. So I devised a solution, and that solution is the reason I was late. I have been busy protecting the future of mankind from the gathering atrocities that would befall them through the completion and the inevitable corruption of our work by the powers that be. Faces around the table began to stiffen. This is not what was expected. Not at all. The world must never know the results of the human longevity research and experiments that we have conducted at this installation. So, I devised a solution, and that solution is the reason I was late. I have been busy protecting the future of mankind from the gathering atrocities that would befall them through the completion and the inevitable corruption of our work by the powers that be. To that end, I have painstakingly and thoroughly infected every computer belonging to this institute, including all the private computers belonging to each of you, with the infamous sectal virus, which by now, as he checked his wristwatch, has totally destroyed the hard drives involved. Pandemonium broke out. Are you mad? Good God, Professor! Now, people, don't panic just yet. The worst is yet to come. What worst? What could be worse than the destruction of our dedicated work and research? Came the expected outcry. Well, let's begin with the fact that the wine you have imbibed tonight was laced with batrachotoxin. Outright panic raced through their minds and erupted from their throats. What? What the hell is batrachotoxin? While they began to frown, squirm, and wince to the sudden realization of strange happenings within their bodies, he enlightened them. The word batrachotoxin comes from the Greek words batrachos, meaning frog, and toxin, meaning poison. For your edification, more than 100 toxins have been identified from the skin secretions of certain members of the frog family, known as poison dart or poison arrow frogs. However, frogs of the genus Phyllobates terribilis produce 27 times more batrachotoxin. He looked around the room, and it is 20-fold more toxic. God damn it, Max! What the hell have you done to us? Danny shouted. Batrachotoxin interferes with heart conduction, causing arrhythmias, extrasystoles, ventricular fibrillation, and other changes which lead to cardiac arrest, he sarcastically explained. You're crazy! Insane! Came a multitude of shouts as they individually began bending over with chest and stomach pains. The lethal dose of this alkaloid for a 150-pound person would be approximately 100 micrograms, or equivalent to the weight of 2 grains of ordinary table salt, he continued. You were each given 500 micrograms in a suspended solution poured into your wine that will be dissolving in your stomachs as we speak. Multiple reactions to the poison sent chairs squealing backwards as they began gasping for air. Why? Came a weak question from Dr. Mitnick as he fell. No effective antidote exists for the treatment of batrachotoxin poisoning, Max clarified. As soon as the solution dissolves, nerve paralysis is almost instantaneous, and death follows quickly. Thereafter, the toxin is fully assimilated and changes its molecular signature, becoming totally harmless and undetectable. Angela was the last to succumb, a look of disbelief on her face as she slid to the floor. He did not wait for her to die before leaving the room and heading for the exit. On his way out, he passed by the bodies of several guards, lying here and there in distorted patterns alongside broken wine goblets, some with a death clutch to their chests. Behind him, smoke began to pour out of the building. The fire, he determined, was necessary to complete the erasure of the terrible science that had gone on at this place over the past year. As Max walked into the oblivion of the night, he could only hope he had not overlooked something, anything. Not ready, he mused. We, as a species, are not ready for such a massive leap into the future. Not yet. Not yet. Though it is too bad I couldn't have actually found the answer. The Wine of Frogs by Anthony Marcolongo. This story was originally published in the anthology, The Moving Finger Writes.
This original audio story was created using voices from 11 Labs and music from Suno AI, neither of which is covered by copyright privilege. However, the story content is wholly original and thus has privileged ownership rights, including full copyright under the provisions of the United States.